Hello, my name is Stephen Schaub, and I am the leader of the Visual Revolution 2.0 here on YouTube. And today we're going to have a great, exciting video. My rooster Kyle's all excited on visualization techniques, visualization aids, and the idea of doing pre-visualization. It's a real creative, fun video today. But first, I'm going to have a great cup of Nespresso coffee. That is a good cup of coffee. Is Nespresso a sponsor? No. Should they be? Yes, they should. Back to the video. So what is visualization? We all use visualization constantly in our art. When you walk into a room, when you walk into a forest, when you're walking down the street, you're thinking about decisions of what do I want in the frame, what do I want out of the frame. Photography is editive. You're always editing within the four walls of the photographic frame. And a lot of times it's more important what you leave out than what you put in. Now, if you're an experienced shooter with decades worth of working with a particular format and a particular camera system, this applies to you a little bit. But if you're someone who bounces back and forth between a lot of different formats, or someone like me, I do that a lot, or someone who is just getting into shooting, using a visualization aid to train your eye to become more responsive is a great thing. So what do I mean by a visualization aid? Well, it could be something as simple as an empty 35mm slide mount. So the distance, so this is a 24 by 36mm opening, standard piece of 35mm film, and the distance that I hold this cutout from my eye in millimeters is equal to a focal length of a lens that I have on my camera. So for instance, if I hold this 50mm from my eye, what I'm seeing through the viewfinder is what a 50mm lens will see. If I hold it 90mm from the eye, it's what a 90mm lens will see. If I hold it 200mm from my eye, it's what a 200mm lens will see. Now, it's great because I can have this in my pocket all day. And I can walk around and take 10,000 in my mind photographs without shooting a single piece of film. But I'm training my eye to think about the aspect ratio. I'm training my eye to think about the different focal length lenses that I have. So when I'm not using this, I'm that much faster. I first started using visualization aids like this when I was working in large format. It's a commitment to set up a 4x5, 5x7, 8x10 inch camera. And before I made that commitment, I kind of wanted to know, where do I want to be? Exactly. So I'd walk around with this cutout of a 4x5 and I'd say, I want to be right here. I want to use a 150mm lens and the tripod's going to be about yay height. And I would then grab all my gear and set it up. Otherwise, I'd be setting up and breaking down so many times that I'm not really engaging with my photography. I'm more engaging with this exercise of setting my equipment up and down. So visualization techniques is a really great way to save yourself time. But as I said, it's also a great way to train your eye. So this is 35mm. You could also have a paper cutout or an old slide mount for a 6.6, 6.45, 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, 4x5, 5x7, 8x10. You can have all these different cutouts and they all work exactly the same way. If you can imagine, if this was 4x5, if it was 6 inches from my eye, it'd be a 150mm lens. That's what a 150 would give me. It's really great. I also, some years back, you all remember the pocket calculator that I talked about a few days ago? Well, the handy Andy pocket exposure calculator. I also, on this particular model, made a cutout for 35mm. So in addition to being my exposure calculator, I even put a depth of field chart on here. I was kind of crazy, I think. But I also had a visualization aid. So I could sit here before I engage the technology and decide what do I want in, what do I want not in the frame. Super important. And once again, if you're working in multiple formats, or say you're new to a format, this is a great way to get to use it really fast. And also, this is something you can always have in your pocket. You can't always be lugging around a Hasselblad. You can't always be lugging around your 4x5. Believe me, I've tried. But I can always have something like this in my pocket to where, I'm having dinner. I'm waiting 45 minutes for the food to come out. I can sit there and do, 500 amazing food photographs in my mind while I wait. My wife's driving the car and we're going somewhere. I can sit there and do, 24 portraits of her while she's driving from the other side and think about how I would want to frame it. It just, once again, helps train you. And then when you actually do have a camera in your hand, you're going to be better with it. You're going to be more thoughtful. There also is visualization aids like this. I think I bought this originally like on Blick art site. and they came with just one little, it's basically a 6x6, and it has a slide, so it allowed painters to sort of, crop the scene the way they wanted. I had the idea of taking two of them and screwing them together, because that way I can crop scenes exactly as I need. So this is when I was working with the Hasselblad a lot. So I had my, my 6.6 negative opening, and I could say, okay, I'm gonna make an 8x10. It actually has a measurement on the side for 8x10, and that's what my 8x10 crop is gonna look like on an 80mm lens, let's say if I was at a normal distance. And it really sort of helped me be able to visualize, okay, I have to make an image that's gonna be this particular aspect ratio on its output. 8x10, 11x14, 16x20. So I have little measurements marked all on here for different outputs. So this visualization aid is really made more for the output end, thinking about how it was going to be reproduced in a magazine. Whereas ones like this are really more about understanding the frame of the film. Now, there is a digital version of this, and I use it quite a bit. There's an app made for the phone called Viewfinder Pro. I will put a link to it. It's a little expensive. It's like 25 bucks. Nothing in photography is cheap. But what's cool about it is it has every, and I swear to God, like every still film camera ever made, I think pretty much every motion picture camera ever made, and every lens possible combination you can think of. And if you do find something that isn't in there, you can actually build your own custom presets. So on mine, and I would show it to you by the way, but we're actually using my phone right now to record, so I can't. But when you launch the app, I've got tabs set up for all my pinhole cameras, my Leica, my Linhoffs, my 4x5s, pretty much every type of camera system I work with. So for instance, if I pull up my Leica M3 tab, immediately in the frame, it'll show me all the lenses that I use. Everything from a 17 to a 28, 35, 50, and a 90. And I see the scene in front of me with the little tiny crop lines projected. It's awesome. You can also turn it into a black and white or color if you're really sort of trying to think in black and white and you don't want the color there. And then you can also take a picture of what you're looking at, which is really great for later when you're doing post-rationalization. You're looking at what you did going, why did I shoot it that way? You might have said, I would have been better using another lens. I also use this tool tremendously for scouting. It's great for scouting. We always seem to have our phones on us, so it's a really convenient viewfinder to have. However, I have to tell you, push comes to shove, I'd like to keep things simple, a little more old school, and I'd rather have a paper cutout. But once again, doing visualization techniques like this just allows you to sort of engage more with the scene, become more aware of your aspect ratio, and if you do it a lot, you literally could have one of these pocket, cards. You could do 1,000 images a week, 2,000 images a week, all in your head. Think what a better photographer you'll be with all that visual knowledge. Thank you very much for listening. Now go shoot some film.